Over back in the United States, it was almost time to officially elect a president who would lead this strong country. I spoke with some of the citizens in Florida before the election to get their thoughts, but when I spoke to T-Guy Tom, something caught me off guard. I heard there's an election coming up. Do you know about that?
The which part?
I heard there's an election coming up in the United States. Do you know about that?
Oh, really?
Tom here didn't even know about the election. I thought for sure all the US citizens would be informed, but Tom assured me it was just because they lived in Florida far away from the others.
I think down in Florida, we're kind of, we're far from all of that. I mean, this is kind of the backwoods of America, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. So I didn't think about it too much, and when I teleported over to the election, there seemed to be a lot of US citizens getting ready to vote. Holy sh**. That's so cool, guys. It was an important day for the American people. Today, they decide which person will lead the country for the rest of the event. As players ran down the boardwalk, they were able to meet the presidential nominees. The US had a variety of different creators to vote for, the first being Vincent SMG, who had a socialism viewpoint where loot would be distributed to all Americans.
What I would like to do for the American people, big farm runs, big roams, to do big raids. We get lots of loot from that and distribute it to everybody. Because if we get America more loaded, then we can do more raids and we can rule the world.
The next candidate being OT Tanza, a fierce PvPer who is ready to lead the US to war.
My first priority, like it has been on our event, is to make America the most prosperous state, keep it safe. If there is, for example, an objective happening, like a nuke or something, that is something America needs to obviously obtain, and that is my first priority.
And the final candidate being Balding Bus, and he had a different approach to America.
If you vote for me, I'm giving big booty Russ to everybody in America. I swear to God. I swear to God.
The Americans had different options to vote for, so it's now time for the Q&A from the crowd.
If you guys were to raid another nation, which one would you guys hit first?
I would probably go for Africa. There's more resources for USA. What do you think? We need to be richer.
The next question came from the president of Mexico, Carnage. But then I stopped for a second, because why was he at the United States election? And then I realized it. Looking around, there were players from Mexico everywhere at this boardwalk. For some odd reason, they were taking part in the American election and were allowed to vote.
With
Sounds like
great power comes great responsibility, right? You guys get such power given to you. What are you guys planning to do with it?
I mean, the questions Mexico were asking Tanza were just too perfect, and he had the best answers for them.
I'm gonna keep doing what I have been doing, and I'm gonna make sure US keeps being the most prosperous country in the entire server. Everyone here needs to be rich. You all need to be doing good. And we can only get bigger from here.
Anyways, after enough questions from the audience, everyone gathered in a giant line to cast their vote. Even I got to vote, but something just felt so odd about this election. As we were waiting in line, the soldiers from Mexico were just watching us, and it was a little intimidating with their armor and guns out as you handed your vote to Jack Shepard, and then I started connecting the dots. I know the full story of what's happening on this server, but none of these voters know what I know. T-Guy Tom told me earlier he had no idea this election was happening. I heard there's an election coming up.
Oh, really?
How many more US citizens do you think were just like Tom who didn't know there was an election? So that might be why so many soldiers from Mexico showed up, to fill their places to look like there were more voters. But let's go back to what the president of Mexico told me earlier.
We have decided to ally with the US. Some big is coming, man. Some big is coming, and we're preparing for it right now.
This couldn't be. Okay, what about Jack Shepard? He's the one reading the votes. Well, when I talked to him earlier in this video, he actually told me who he was voting for.
I might run for president. I'm getting my votes with Tanza currently.
I'm afraid this election may be orchestrated by multiple parties, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe everything is just a coincidence and I'm looking into this too deep. And after about 30 minutes of everyone patiently waiting in line to cast their vote, it was finally time for Jack Shepard to announce the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go over the total here. So 1 vote for Porgy. Very good. 2 votes for Spoon Kid. 3 votes for Balding Bus, 9 for Vincent SMG, and 25 for Tanza. Ladies and gentlemen, your new president.
Did they just rig that election? I guess we won't find out until it's confirmed, but these Americans may have just blindly voted for a false leader. Regardless if it was rigged or not, you're now looking at the man who will lead the United States. OT Tanza.
It is just the first day of this big event to come. and I really want to thank everyone for voting me. One thing I want to do as my first act of president immediately, name Vincent SMG from Florida as my war general. I like Vincent, he's a man of action. If someone is going to get people to war, it's him. I think the entire world needs to give us tax, to be honest. We'll make sure USA is represented strong.
All right. Thank you for coming
Thank
out.
you guys.
It was a special day for the American people as they celebrated with their new president, but little do they know what they may have just done. Now the USA could start preparing for their conquest in Africa, and as all the players left the boardwalk, Mexico headed off in their own group, and I caught them whispering something interesting amongst their members.
Who knew rigging an election was so easy?